Hello, my flower friends. Welcome to the live gardening show. Today is the humble umbel. Do you know what that is? You're about to learn today if you stick around for a few minutes. So first, friends, I have thousands of little cool season hardy annual seedlings all on the verge of being planted around here. And I just can't help but show off some of them. This is actually some yarrow, which actually falls into this family that we're going to talk about today. So we'll learn more about that in just a moment. And so, friends, if we've never met before, my name is Lisa Mason Ziegler. I am actually the founder owner of the Gardener's Workshop. And I have been a professional cut flower farmer for the past 25 years. And now I'm on a mission. And that mission is to empower people, whether for profit or pleasure, to be able to grow fabulous cut flowers. And I do that by demonstrating, showing what we're doing here on the farm, not only showing you how I do it, but providing you access to the things that I do it with. We offer the same tools, seeds, and supplies that you'll see me show and talk about. And in fact, the ones that I mentioned in this video will be in a ribbon below the video. And so if you're watching on a phone, and the comments are open, you may have to close the comments to actually be able to see that. But everything will be available, and that way you don't have to write down names and things. It'll all be right here in the show. So, friends, today I'm going to talk about umbels and who are they, what are they, and why I grow them, because it's about more than just flowers with this family. And then I'm going to show you how I start them. I'll talk about that as I show you the flowers. I'll bring you up to date on our big coming out this winter, and that is the big calendar journal that is going to start shipping the end of November, and it's just going to help. Friends, nobody will ever need to ask again, when do I plant that? It's all has my equations for you to figure out for your garden. It'll be awesome. And friends, so I want to just jump right off is first off, what flowers are we talking about? We're talking about flowers like dill, Queen Anne's lace, Ami magus, which is, we call it the false Queen Anne's lace. It looks like Queen Anne's lace, but it's not really. And even yarrow falls into this category. And why in the world do I love growing them so much? Well, first off, they're beautiful. My sister, who has always been the bouquet maker here on the farm, or the leader of the bouquet making back in our production days, she absolutely loved having particularly dill. Dill flowers are about this big. And she loved putting them right above the canopy of our bouquets. I mean, we sold hundreds each week to supermarkets, and then our bouquet subscriptions, and we had a members only market here on our farm. And those people, the on farm private market, is where the name was kind of termed, I want the firework flower. That's what it looks like. It looks like when she put it right above the canopy of flowers, that's exactly what it looks like. So they're beautiful flowers. I mean, who doesn't love Queen Anne's lace? People are always looking for Queen Anne's lace, right? But there's even a better reason, or another great reason for you to actually grow it. And that is the role that they play for many of our beneficial insects and our pollinators. So the beneficial insect I always love to kind of highlight when I'm talking about dill. First off, when you plant this family, they're all cool season hardy annuals, okay? That means that they prefer to be planted when it's cool to cold, so that they're set and ready to go when spring comes, right? We grow an enormous amount of dill back in high production, and we fall planted. I'm in 8A southeastern Virginia, so it survives my winters. The dill stems would be taller than I am. I mean, they're absolutely crazy, and they're beautiful, and they're big. But what that really did when we started growing stuff at the right time and getting such amazing stem length is literally the canopy of flowers are at your eye level. And that allows you to go there, you're standing there cutting flowers, and you're noticing all these little insects just flying around and hovering, from hoverflies to parasitic wasps. All of them have very important jobs on my farm. And dill is a favorite, as is Queen Anne's lace and Ami magus. Why? Because so many of these little beneficial insects, y'all, are little. And when you're a little insect, you have a little mouth. And when you have a little mouth, you need little teeny flowers to eat from. And that's exactly what umbels are all about. Umbels are about big flowers, but when you get down and look at the big flower, it's like a boatload of little teeny flowers clustered together, right? And I'm going to show you some pictures in here in just a minute. And so this group of flowers, these umbels that are cool season hardy annuals, that are beautiful cut flowers and unusual, they're actually one of the flowers that classically for us, supermarkets nor florists could actually get them very readily from wholesalers. So that was, that's all the flowers that I grew were that way. That was kind of our target, right? Also, I'm going to tell you how I start each one as I go through and show you what they look like. But that many of these can be strong reseeders in your garden. That means if you allow the flowers to go to seed and allow them to drop their seed, they will reseed themselves. Now, I just want to say with that, if you're a commercial professional cut flower grower or trying thereof to be one, you would never, ever rely on reseeding of any flower. It's just too unreliable. But if you're a home gardener, know that and plant these where you make the most out of reseeding, right? So let's look at some of these different flowers. There's not many of them, but they are pretty daggum powerful, y'all. So this is the first one I want to talk about. We call this false Queen Anne's lace. This is Ami Magus, and this is a close-up of one flower head. And look at all those little teeny flowers, y'all. This is a flower that I could sell every stinking stem I ever grew to florists and supermarkets, but also as bouquet makers, we loved it for the same reasons that florist does. It's a great filler. It's a big flat flower, right? So this is Ami Magus, and I've planted this both way. My preference is to start it indoors. My preference is always to start indoors. It's easier, it's quicker, it's less work. You save on seeds, and it's more cost effective. But in a pinch, for whatever reason, I have direct sown Ami Magus. And as long as you do what you need to do for direct seeding, water every day until they sprout, they do really, really well. Now, the kissing cousin of Ami Magus is another Ami, but this one's called Green Mist. And this is a huskier flower. It's got a thicker stem. There's more fleshy tissue underneath this bloom. It just makes it sturdier. The foliage is really different. It's very ferny looking. I really love this one. However, I will tell you, we have a healthy tarnish bug problem on my flower farm. Tarnish bugs eat these up. If you find brown marks, like you think they got burnt or something from the sun, that's probably tarnish bugs. So just know that. Green Mist, I feel like I can harvest earlier in its blooming stage, where Ami Magus, you have to wait until a third of the flowers are open. But this one's worth figuring out if you can grow it and then what to do with it. And here is the original. This is Daucus, which is Queen Anne's lace. It's called Queen Anne's lace, right? And this is Dara. And it comes in all these different colors in a mix. And I will say that I don't typically get this much white. Usually it's all these other variegated colors that I get. I really love false Queen Anne's lace. I definitely start this one indoors, have super good luck with soil blocking with it. But I'll tell you what I particularly love about Queen Anne's lace is after we have just cut it, it's very productive, y'all. We've just cut it till we can't cut anymore. We just leave it out in the garden if we can, if we have the space and time. And the hoverflies, do you know what a hoverfly is? A hoverfly doesn't really look much like a fly to the naked eye. It's looks more like people mistake it as a funny looking bee. And they hover. They're like helicopters. They hover around, and what are they hovering doing, looking for? They're looking for pests, mainly aphids. They love aphids, and their babies love aphids. So when they see an aphid infestation, they go down, lay their eggs right there on the stem where those aphids are, because guess what their babies eat? Aphids. Y'all, what's going on out in your garden when you don't use pesticides, spraying and stuff is absolutely phenomenal. Who needs sci-fi? Couldn't think of the word. There's amazing things, and Queen Anne's lace is a great one. Now, here's one that not a lot of people grow. This is Orlea, sometimes called white lace flower, and it blooms a little bit different timing. I'm trying to remember if it's before or after the Amis, but it's totally different. Remember what there's the Ami. Look at all those little tiny flowers. Look at this. This has big flowers or petals and little flowers. Really different. In my book, Cool Flowers, which came out like a long time, was published in 2014. I wrote in the book because back then I did started indoors, but you know what I found? This is easier to sow outdoors in the garden. I get a stronger stand. So Orlea is one that I definitely sow out in the garden. And almost all of these umbels, we harvest them at the third open. That means when a third of the flowers are open is when they actually can get cut. Unless I say, like I did for Queen Anne's lace, you can cut them a little earlier, and green mist is like that too. This is dill, y'all. It is so beautiful. And as I mentioned earlier, it's taller than me. When you plant it at the right time, the fragrance is phenomenal. And dill is just such a great flower to grow. We had customers that would actually want to buy the fronds as well, or whatever you call the leaves, because we didn't use them much, but we would offer those only at our private members market, when we knew the people that wanted that and would put it on our availability list that we sent to them every week. And so dill is a really great one. And I direct seed dill out into the garden, and I plant it in the fall and in spring. So this is, gosh, you would think this goes with me, right? I grow 2 yarrows, and these are yarrows that are traditionally planted as hardy annuals. These are not the perennial varieties. However, they can be invasively reseeders if you let them go to a bunch of seed. But unfortunately, the colors that reseed are not the colors that I grow these for. If you let this guy reseed, you're going to primarily get this really indescript soft pink that's just not good for much of anything, if you ask me. To get all the great colors, you have to replant it or restart it every single year, and that's what we do. This is summer berries, and again, all this is in the ribbon or tagged here in the video, so you have access to actually purchase them. And then this is my favorite yarrow, y'all. Look at these colors. This yellow is, I call it baby shower yellow. It is a soft, beautiful yellow that I've just never seen anywhere else. Shrimp, soft salmon, and this is exactly the same. If you just let this reseed, all you're going to get is a bunch of this pale pink and not of any of these other colors. And those other colors are what I grow it for. So all of these, and look at all the little tiny flowers. That's exactly what all these beneficial insects are looking for, right? So let me show you actually, I'm going to show you first off, in case you didn't see them at first, when I first started, this is a tray of 100 of, this is the summer berries, which we just saw. This is 100 of the small soil blocks. And I was going to pull one apart here and show it to you. So these are, how old are these? Whoops, trying to get it out without destroying it. So this is from September 8th. Today's the 16th. So these are a little more than 4 weeks old. Look at that root hanging out the bottom. They're just ready. They're just ready and waiting to actually just be planted out in the garden. If this had been in a container for 5 weeks, I can promise you that the roots would be totally wound around and what we call being root bound. Because soil blocks have air as their walls, they actually get air pruned and it holds them. Now, granted, if I left these in this tray for 2 more weeks, they'd grow into their neighbor. But we typically don't do that. But even then, you just break them apart and that prunes them and they hit the ground actually running. And I just want to show you this one because it reveals what's underneath. This is feverfew, which is not an umbel, but this is 100. This is exactly what's underneath that yarrow you just saw. This is 5 sets of 20 of the small blocks that are on this little tray that's 5.5 inches wide. I think it's 15 inches long. And it's just a super, not only do I, in my experience of growing this way for 30 years, seedlings just don't suffer any transplant shock. So you get fruiting and growing just as quicker. But it's just super space savvy. So let me show you how you can actually get started doing it. I wanted to first show you how I make those blocks. And I want to sow, yarrow seeds are teeny tiny. And I want to show you how this method just really, oh, I just buried my toothpick, y'all. Oh boy, now it's all dirty. Okay, we'll deal with that in a minute. All right, so I use trays that have no drainage holes. That means you can do it anywhere in your home. I took soil blocking, which was really taught how to do like in a greenhouse environment, and turned it into a tabletop for home gardeners because I still don't have a greenhouse, y'all. I do everything inside a building. So this is the soil blocker. And the blocking mix, let me turn this down so you can see me a little better here. So this is blocking mix. This is the opposite of what most seed starting mixes are. This is made to be dense, not light and fluffy, and it's pretty moist. I push the blocking tool down a couple of times to make sure the chambers are full. This is a potato masher, y'all. That's the best tool for striking off and mixing the water and the soil together. We're just going to take our tray, place the tool on the tray, give it a squeeze, and just that quickly, we actually just made 20 little containers, y'all. Literally made 20 little containers. So let's see how we can do this. All right, so I'm going to use this and put this right here so you can watch me. So, what did I do with my tooth? Where's my dirty toothpick? Feeling the need to wipe this off, y'all. I have to put a little spit on this. And the way I do that when I'm here by myself is I actually spit into the tray. Well, I'm not doing that. I just touch the tip in my mouth and get a little saliva. So this is the seed pan, and this is aluminum. It has no static electricity. And literally, when you just touch the toothpick to the seed, it literally, can y'all see that? The seed just hopped right on. Yarrow is seeded on the surface because our seed packet actually says, start seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before planting date. Do not cover seeds with soil. So that means these seeds need light to germinate, and you are firmly just seeding the seed right on the surface. It is super efficient and fast. The seed has to make contact with the soil so that it can benefit from the warmth and the moisture. And y'all, this is like cross stitching, and whole weeding if you use film. I mean, it's just the most satisfying job ever. And I am pretty dadgum quick at it when I'm not having to aim it at a camera. And so that is literally how we surface sow seeds. And each packet of all the umbels or all of our seeds tells you right on the packet, as well as on our website, in my books, in my courses, it all tells you the key pieces of information. Does it go on the surface, or do you supposed to cover it with actual soil? So how can you get started soil blocking? And I make so many messes, y'all. And I will tell you that some of, I mentioned when I was showing you the different flowers, some are direct sown outside, and some prefer that I actually start inside. It's actually the opposite of what most people think. Planting out in the garden wastes so many more seeds, takes so much more labor, because not only do you need to water daily, what you do with your seedlings inside too, but it's totally different than dragging a hose out there, having the right shoes on to be able to go out into the garden. But in addition to that, you have to cultivate, because when you plant your seeds, guess what else starts to grow right away? Weeds. So you have to keep the weeds at bay while your seeds are developing, versus going out to a bed which can be mulched and plant into mulch, whether that's biodegradable film or whatever you use, and you're planting a transplant that is weeks ahead of a seed. That's why direct seeding is more work and not as cost effective as starting from seed indoors. So the soil block maker kit, which the kit is here in the collection, and this is the soil blocker. We import these from England. They are still made by the Ladbroke company, and I just want to make you aware that there are now, for probably the last year, there's been counterfeit blockers. And how do you know that? The first real good key is that they are being sold at half the price of what everybody else sells them for. And they're actually stamped with the name, but all you have to do is look to see where they're being shipped from. And that'll let you know that they are not original, made in the UK. So we sell the original Ladbroke, and we stand behind our tools, and the Ladbrokes stand behind us. So you get the small blocker, which makes 20 3/4-inch blocks. You get a bag of the ready-made mix. This bag is 6 quarts, and it'll make 600 of those small blocks. So the soil goes a really long way. Very different than when you're filling up pots. The kit also includes my Seed Starting Made Easy course. It's yours. You own it. You have lifetime unlimited access. It takes you through starting the seeds, growing them up, hardening them off, and getting them out to the garden and more. And you get that. And then you also get your choice of either 3 cool season seeds or 3 warm season seeds that come with the kit. So you make your choice when you're checking out. It also comes with 3 of our reusable foam trays. This will hold 3 sets of 20, has your seed pan, toothpicks, and the plant ID. And you get all of this for $89.95, which is, I believe, about a 15% discount off of buying all this stuff, because it's all available separately as well. And you can find them, because when you click through on the products, it takes you to our website. So you can just go to the seed starting equipment category, and it's all in there as different kits as well as individually. So you can purchase just whatever it is that you are looking to actually get. So y'all, I'm just looking at my notes. I get lost so easy. I mean, I just can go off on a tangent, right? So the one thing that I did want to point out, particularly if you're a seed starter already, one of the things that, would I put them? I covered them up. There they are. One of the things that's never been said in my presence anyway, that you have enough heat mat space and enough grow light space. No one has ever said. I mean, even as a farmer now, I mean, when I had a whole big room full of grow lights, it's like I still didn't have enough space, y'all. So it's really important that you match the tray size to the number of seeds you're starting, so you don't waste that premium space on heat mats. That's why I use different size trays. So this is the one you just saw me use that holds a set of 20, right? This is what I start, because I don't grow commercially vegetables. This is what I start my peppers on, my tomatoes on, and any flower that I'm not growing a large volume of, it goes on this. And then this is the large tray, which holds 2 sets of 20, or it'll hold 4 or 8 of the 2-inch blocks also. So this is really great. And then this one is the one that comes in the kit. It holds 3 sets of 20. I use all the different sizes, y'all, because it depends on what I'm growing and what size block I'm using. They're super cost effective, reusable for years. I think they're all 5-packs. $1.95, $2.95, and $3.95. And they're also available in 25 packs. It's just a great way to have reusable, inexpensive size trays. And we use masking tape and our plant marker to mark on them. And they just do a great job. And then I wanted to say, we were talking about heat mats. One of the things, I've taught seed starting now for 20 years. Probably maybe 25 years, something like that. And the most resistant thing that people resist is heat mats. It's because they just really don't understand how significant they are. So when they hear somebody say seeds germinate best at 75 to 85 degrees, right? Well, they're thinking, my house is 72. That'll probably be fine. Well, friends, your house is 72 air temperature. We're talking about soil temperature. 75 to 85 is a general kind of recommendation, is what seeds sprout at. And so if your house is 70 degrees, typically air temperature is 15 to 20 degrees warmer than that of the mass of soil. So if your house is 70, that means your soil is probably 50 to 55 degrees. And that explains why people have such horrible luck with germination. I mean, we talk to these people all the day long, and this is it. Because I thought about a different way to kind of try to explain it. Your seeds know when to sprout when they get a signal, when they get their trigger to wake up. And heat is a huge piece of that, right? So this has a built-in thermostat. You plug it in, you place your trays, depending on what season you're starting. If it's Umbels, we actually put a cookie cooling rack on the heat mat to put the trays on because they need the warmth. They don't need it hot though. But the seedling heat mat makes all the difference in the world. This is a hop in the system. You sow the seeds, you put them on the heat mat. Then once 50% show signs of life, you then move them off the heat to grow lights. They don't stay on this. And so the heat mat is $39.95, I believe. And it is the piece that a lot of people are missing, and they're wasting a lot more money on seeds than they are in buying a heat mat and fixing that problem. And I can just tell you that from just years and years of actual experience. And so something else I wanted to share, we just finished doing our direct sowing out here on the farm. I planted, today is what day? Thursday. I think I planted last Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe it was last Tuesday. Anyway, they're sprouting. I just saw all my giant poppy pods. I mean, y'all, there is nothing better than sowing a bunch of seeds out in the garden, because so many things can happen, right? I mean, animals, moisture levels, just all kinds of stuff. All of my giant poppy pods are about this big. And there's other things out there popping too, but I just happen to know they aren't ID'd out in the garden. We have it actually written on a record here on our big calendar, the list, and I recognize them right away, and it just makes my heart so good. So if you struggle with the same thing that I do, which is rabbits and squirrels, they're the ones that wreak havoc in my direct sown garden. Squirrels are the big enemies here, because they get in there and root around. We live in what was an old pecan orchard, and so they're always burying stuff. They've got pecans from all over, and they just disturb your soil and bury your seeds alive. So we use floating row cover. This is the lightest weight row cover. That's why it's called floating. It does not require hoops for short-term use, which is what I would do in a direct seeding situation where I had varmint issues. So you sow your seeds, you water, and then you lay this down on top of it. And then we use anchor bags. This is how they come, like in a 10-pack, 20-pack, no, 10-pack, 30-pack, and 60. And you can fill them with either soil, sand, or gravel. We use gravel. We always have a pile of gravel here. And this is what you hold your row covers down with. That doesn't rip the covers, and does a beautiful job of holding them down. And so every day I go out there and pull the bags off one side, push the cover back, I water and cover it back up. The squirrels don't even know that there's something good underneath there. And then if you have a rabbit problem of eating your seedlings once they sprout, you can leave it on a little bit longer, but if you're going to use it long term, I definitely recommend hoops. Y'all, I have enough hoops and row cover to cover my entire farm. I learned when we started using the pre-arched wire hoops and using lightweight row cover, we don't really use row cover for cold protection, which is what everybody thinks of when they think of frost cloth. We don't really use it that way. I only plant in the fall things that survive my winter lowest temperature. I don't need to protect them from the cold. However, protecting them from the cold wind, which whips them up, as well as deer and rabbits and squirrels, is key. And I learned from doing this that this little lightweight cover does so much more than we ever expect. Just blocking the wind and concentrating the winter sunshine, it's phenomenal, the difference. I mean, I definitely attribute my great success with cool season hardy annuals, cool flowers, is because I use row covers during the winter. Again, it's not to protect them from the cold. They like the cold. It's the wind and the varmints. So you can find the row covers in different sizes, 20, 50, 100, and the anchor bags on the website. You can see right here below the video. Sorry, y'all. And I just want to wrap it up with a couple of resources that you can actually rely on to guide you in all ways. So depending on where you are in your journey of growing flowers, if you're not familiar with the Cool Season Hardy Annual Method, this is the first little book that I wrote back in 2014 is when it was published. This is the basic concept of figuring out the proper planting time for where you are. This doesn't tell you when to plant, y'all. It tells you it's based on your winter lowest temperature and your frost dates. And it helps you to get traction on, because it's very awkward. That's why we all stopped growing them. What are we talking about? Bell's Violet, sweet peas, poppies, snapdragons, sweet William, nigella, larkspur. Y'all, I mean, there's 40 or 50 of them actually now that I grow. And this is the first step. Cool flowers, would love to sign one for you. If you have been growing cool flowers and you're kind of getting your sea legs under you, and even as a beginner book is the Cut Flower Handbook. This has cool and warm season seeds in it, and it teaches you how to weave them together to have a 3-season outdoor cutting garden, y'all. That's the whole point of it. The first 2 short sections is about how a cut flower garden works and how to keep it going endlessly. Number one thing I recommend is right in the front of the book, y'all. The people that start small go the long haul. The people that go big are not even heard of in 2 years. So it's got some real practical guidance. And then it takes you through setting it up, low maintenance. Then when do you harvest? How do you harvest? Where do you make the cut? How do you condition? And then it features the lion's share of the book. This is flowers, this side. And when you purchase the book from us, as this falls out, you get a PDF link to download the 6 flowers that would not fit in the book, y'all, and would love to sign one of these for you. And then lastly, I'll wrap it up with my newest resource, which I believe is the strongest, most powerful resource that I have ever created, because it has all the same information that's in my book, the Cut Flower Handbook, on the succession planting and concentrating it down. This is the big calendar journal. Y'all, this is what has run my farm for the last 15 years. I called it the farm brain for years. And so not only are the blocks big enough, look, it's 20 inches by 30 inches. The daily blocks are big enough to write the things that I recommend. I give you all the steps to find 8 different planting successions for your garden. It's all based on your conditions, y'all. Then there's a tip sheet on the back. This is $39.95. It'll start shipping the end of November. Would love for you to have one. And all the so we're in pre-order right now. All pre-purchasers will be invited to a live free workshop where I'm going to walk you through those 8 planting sessions and figuring out, you know what I mean? Talking you through, okay, find this. All right, that's where you count back this. That's your planting window so that you can mark your calendar. And then once you know your planting windows, friends, then you will very simply, because the instructions are right on my calendar of when you count back to find your seed starting dates. Y'all, it is so simple when you just have the clear facts on what to follow. I attribute my beginning using that calendar 15 years ago, developing me into the stellar 3-season outdoor flower commercial farmer that I am today. I don't remember all this stuff. When do you think I didn't show y'all? We are starting to have cut flower kale for the fall. It's beautiful, man. It is so tall. I just did a video. It'll be on YouTube soon. Why did I know when to start that? Not because I was thinking about that in the middle of the summer when it's 95 degrees and we're all hot, tired, and exhausted. No, because we all know that we look at the big calendar every single workday to see what are we supposed to be doing this week? What seeds are we supposed to be starting? That's the only way you stay on schedule, friends. I don't remember all that stuff. It was the calendar. So get pre-order so that you can get in on the workshop, which will help you walk through the steps. And I hope to see you there. So, my friends, until we meet again, ciao.